Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our channel, Uber, the Ride to Financial Freedom. We have a very interesting episode today. This is the third episode, and I'm getting into something that normally financial videos don't get into so much, which is the personalities of the CEOs of the company. So we're gonna get into this a little bit and talk about Travis and Dara, the CEOs of Uber and the leaders of the company since its inception. They have very different types of personality, as we will get into. But I thought it was a very interesting take on whether the company may succeed or fail depending on the personality of who's leading it, which I believe is a critical factor. But before we get into it, just a reminder that this is not financial advice. I provide analysis, my own opinion. I've studied Uber for years and hope you find this information valuable. But of course, do your own research before you decide to invest or not invest in Uber or any other companies. And I don't know your risk tolerance. You have to figure that out. But hopefully this will be useful information for you guys, and I would love to hear from you. Before we get into it, a final request from you guys, which is, it takes a little bit of work to do these videos. It gets me excited about the company and the prospects of it, and I'm happy to do it, but it would really help me if you guys hit the thumbs up, like the video, subscribed. It takes just a second, so I'm going to give you just a second so you can do it. Like, subscribe. Thank you so much. All right, let's get into it. So, I got this little excerpt about Uber from Investopedia. As you guys can see, the company was founded in 2009, so it's been 13 years. So it starts becoming, a little bit of a longer story before we see the company really grow in valuation, because it's been sort of stuck for the last 3 or 4 years since it went public. We have Travis here mentioned at the end as forced to resign in 2017. Many of you know the story, but I just wanted to put it into context. And obviously, right now there's a show that many of you may have seen or have heard of. Super pumped about Travis Kalanick's last few years as the Uber CEO. And my goal is not to make a sort of judgment on whether Travis or Dara are good or bad people or make any sort of dramatic take on it, but rather understand the personalities and how they contrast with each other and what effect they have on the company. So one final thing before we kind of jump into it, which is the company, as you guys can see here, was expected with its IPO to be valued at $120 billion. And right now it's been 3 or 4 years since it went public, I guess 3 years now. And it's still sitting at 60, 70 billion. So many believe Travis was just the right CEO to keep the company going at a higher and higher valuation. Many others believe that had Travis stayed, the company would have had deeper troubles and maybe would have never financially recovered. So that's sort of the controversy for many people, but we're going to get into the personality types, and then I'll give an opinion on whether I think they're a good fit or not for the company, depending on the phase. So let's start with Travis. Travis, founder and CEO of Uber from 2009 and 2017. So we are going to listen to a couple of videos, watch just some excerpt from interviews where Travis talks about, Uber, and this is sort of peak Travis. His popularity was very high, especially in the second video we're going to watch. The first one is early stages, and I think it's going to be an interesting dive into his demeanor, his personality. Also pay attention to his body language. I think it will tell us a lot about who Travis is. So let's go through these videos.
It was really a lifestyle company, right? It was about us and our 100 friends being able to push a button and get around San Francisco like ballers. So what it is in practice, it's an on-demand car service. You get your smartphone out, you push a button, in 5 minutes a car arrives, takes you wherever you want to go. At this point, we're now in 9 cities around the world. Full-time CEO, that's kind of a big day. And during that board meeting, we were served with cease and desist by the city of San Francisco and the state of California. Essentially, they had it came down to a couple different issues. One of which is they wanted to take the name. Our name is Uber. Start out as Uber Cab, and they thought that was marketing ourselves as a taxi company, so we became Uber. Now, for me, I've done a lot of disruptive businesses before. A lot of tech that's sort of disrupted certain industries. I've been sued before, and in fact, I had a sued 2 companies ago that was $250 billion by 33 of the largest media companies in the world. So when we got this cease and desist on this day where I was, basically coming in as CEO formally, it was actually kind of like a homecoming. It was like, it actually got me, for me, it was like my happy place. It's like it was meant to be. And
All right. So from that interview, you guys can see what Travis' personality is like a little bit. It's a window. Obviously, it's just a few seconds, but it's pretty consistent with other things that we've seen. And I'll play another clip. Looking at his sort of body language, his demeanor, the way he approaches things, and obviously the milestones that the company achieved and the issues that he had under his management, you can see that his personality is one of someone that is combative, self-confident, assertive, and apologetic, and that is continuously challenging the status quo. Right? He's saying, "I was excited, almost like I felt in my element when I was sued, and that's where he feels that he adds value in the battlefield. So it takes a very unique type of personality to be that type of CEO. And I'm gonna play another clip, and then go back to his personality type in my view, coming from these clips, and obviously. All right, so that was another interesting clip with Travis in one of his most watched interviews. And as you can see, he is continuously challenging the status quo. He's almost defiant with the status quo, believes he can improve things dramatically, and he's not shy about it. Has this confrontational way about his confronting his own view of the world with the current rules, and you can sense that in the way he speaks. You can see it in what he says and how he challenges every question. And given all of this, and given my know-how and my background in enneagram, and I'm by no means a professional of enneagram, but I've studied it for years. I'm very interested in personality types in general. I believe that Travis is a type 8, the challenger. We're not going to have time to get into personality types farther than that. I recommend that you do your own reading on personality types, but it's clear that number 8s are a lot of what we just looked at. Self-confident, assertive, unapologetic. They basically are willing to risk a lot personally and for the company in this case to change how things are and turn the world more into their worldview. A very famous sort of more positive number 8 is Martin Luther King, and one more negative will be Pablo Escobar. So whether you like Travis or the other 2 guys I mentioned, obviously they're in the extremes, but they have things in common, and we're not here to judge whether somebody's good or bad, but just try to understand what their personality is like. And in my view, Travis at that time thought that he needed to challenge a lot of the rules and cut corners, and that he needed to force the change of legislation, change of laws, and that he wasn't going to get there by following every rule written. He had to basically um, defy the laws, established rules, and impose his new reality and view of the world. So now let's turn the attention over to the current CEO, Dara Khosrowshahi. I think I'm saying it right. So Dara has been the CEO of Uber since 2017, and it's got a very different type of personality. And obviously, if you guys know a little bit about this story, the board of Uber thought that they needed a radical change of direction. And in my view, the personality of the CEO is the personality of the company in some ways. And so, for better or worse, Travis had such an infectious personality that it was particularly true in his management. Uber became Travis, and Travis became Uber. And at some point, the board decided that's no bueno moving forward. We need to change directions, and went for Dara, who was the CEO of Expedia at that time. So let's watch a couple of short clips of Dara and get a little bit in his personality type.